Hi there, BookTube.
Hello, BookTube.
Look, it's Tilly. It's Tilly from Tilly Show.
I've crawled out from under my rock.
I reappeared to briefly. She's on home leave from working abroad, and so
Ross had a present for me. So we thought we'd make a video about related to the present.
Because the present is
Secrets of Hartwood Hall
by Katie.
By Katie.
Of Books and Things.
And it's so exciting to see like Katie's name on the cover. And you got it at the launch, which I couldn't unfortunately go to.
Because you were abroad.
Yeah.
And as you will be again shortly. But I can press this into your hands now.
And I can take it back with me and read it. Yeah. So given that I've been kind of out of the loop for a while, please tell me a little bit about what you enjoyed about this, because you've already finished it.
Oh, well, I read it the first weekend that I
as soon as it came out
with very much pleasure, my own copy, and as opposed to the one that Katie kindly signed to Tilly. And yes, I think this is absolutely going to be a Matilda book, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. And there's lots of reasons why I think that's the case. Reason number one, okay, is you and I both love Katie because she was one of the channels that
sucked us into BookTube.
Drew us into BookTube.
With all these videos about Victorian literature and Jane Austen.
Yes. She's the evil genius.
The mastermind.
Absolutely. Mistress Mind. Yes. No, absolutely. So we love Katie. So it's an enormous relief to be able to say, it's actually a really good book. What if it hadn't been? What would you have done?
We would have not made any video, not made any.
I mean, I think we could predict that, Katie's a prodigious reader, and, she works in publishing, she edits books.
And somebody who's very articulate and very good at,
just hear her talking about books, but I mean, I can talk about books and tell stories to the cows come home, but I couldn't possibly. Because she's also got the perseverance, which is something that you need as a writer, isn't it? And I'm far too much of a flibbity gibbet, as they say.
You're too busy scally dangling off to the next book.
Indeed. Yeah. So it's really well written. It's the language is lovely. There's never a point when you think like, oh, that was a bit of a clumsy phrase. None of that. So
smooth and
smooth. So that's reason number one that I think.
Yes, and I like a book that just works.
Yeah, that you just read without having to. I was going to say without having to pay a lot of attention to how it's written, because it's well written in a way that's just.
It's the classic phrase: "Good prose is like a window pane." You don't.
Oh, I like that.
George Orwell. You didn't know that?
Yes. No. Well, now you said it. Yes, I did. But
it's like my favourite quote about writing, because if any time that you notice the way that a sentence is written in a bad way, I always think, it's not like a window pane, and it drags you out of the story. A good story is written in a way that you just see the story, you don't see how it's written.
Yes. I mean, I'd say I also enjoy books where the
writing itself,
the window pane is
stained glass.
It's stained glass. or even willfully opaque, so that I have to like scratch my way through
like a bathroom window.
What kind of like frosted glass? Anyway, we'll leave this metaphor here, I think. But yes, this is definitely window pane. Then the next reason why I think you will enjoy it is because it's historical fiction, which I know is a genre you enjoy. It's a genre that Katie enjoys, that I enjoy.
I haven't read much modern historical fiction. I was trying to think back to examples of modern historical fiction I've read, and I can only really come up with a handful.
Yeah, Wolf Hall,
definitely.
Yeah. This is very different from that, but we'll come to this.
Yeah, a couple of, I guess, The Woman in Black is a Victorian Gothic historical fiction, and this is Victorian Gothic historical fiction. So.
And I think The Woman in Black would be a really good comparator,
right,
for this.
But although that's a very short and close ghost story type thing, and is this a ghost story?
Well,
is
it or isn't it? We won't say, because it would be a spoiler.
Okay. Now I know a little bit more about what to expect.
Well, the clue's in the title. The secrets.
Yeah.
There's going to be like something going on where you're thinking, what is this?
Yes. And I gather very strong Bronte type vibes of people locked. Well, maybe not people locked away, but
yes. Is it a ghost or is it a real person? Is there all of that
going on?
And that. So yes, you'll enjoy it because it's historical fiction, but we'll come on to the whole Bronte. Yeah,
vibe. Okay, cool.
Because but it's the kind of historical fiction that I like. Historical fiction where I'm very confident and comfortable that the author has done their research.
Yeah, that the author really knows about the time period.
That they know about the time period that they're talking about. That there aren't things that jar as anachronistic, objects or
or there's the other way of doing it where the author's really done their research and they want to make sure that you know that they've done their research.
That's tiresome too. Oh no.
Yeah, so they explain, and she was wearing this dress because that was the kind of dress that women in,
so one detail that I think you will particularly enjoy in this is at one point 2 members of the household become ill with an infectious disease.
Oh, great.
I knew that.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, and what you get is a really vivid sense of how serious infectious diseases were then that are relatively
trivial now,
or insignificant because we
can treat them
because we've got
for now
vaccination. But also the way they manage that, there's that. Well, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say they create a physical barrier across the upstairs landing, with put chairs there, and not because people can't cross that barrier, but to make people think and stop and stay on one side, or if they cross it to know that they've got to wash their hands, or you can the doctor says we're going to do this and really interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
So that sort of detail in terms of life and how life works, but what she doesn't do that irritates me in historical fiction sometimes is sort of assume that people in the past aren't people like us. Yeah. I'm not explaining that very well. I've read some Goodreads reviews of this that sort of grumble that she's somehow put 21st century.
I was going to say that can sometimes be
And whereas I think what she's done is she's got 19th century etiquette, habits, behaviour, ways of talking, but demonstrating that people had just as there were just as many gay people in the 19th century as there are today. It's just that how it was expressed,
how they acted, the ability to live that life,
as an illustration, or that women absolutely had ideas in the 19th century about what they would like their rights to be.
Yeah. You get that when you read something like The Convent of Wellfell Hall or Amy Levy, Romance of a Shop.
Yeah, totally. So I think that the people who made those criticisms of the book actually haven't read the 19th century literature
that they're comparing to.
That Katie has and that you and I have.
Yeah. So they've read a very limited selection of 19th century.
If you've read Shirley, say, by Charlotte Bronte, or Jane Eyre, or or Mrs. Gaskell. Yeah.
Read Jane Eyre with paying attention to it, I suppose, because if you don't pay attention to those aspects, you might not necessarily.
But a character like like in North and South, say, I've forgotten the name of the main female character in that, but concern for self-determination, is as powerful as any mine would be,
although she has a set of sensibilities and behaviours, but she really believes in doing, and now I'm really annoyed because I can't remember her name.
Oh well,
Elizabeth?
No, I don't know. Anyway, so that's one of the things that I think that you will enjoy about this, because it's almost like there's a sort of it works for a 21st century reader, because you're not when you're reading actual Victorian fiction, you have to sort of think, you have to bear in mind that's how they thought at the time, and you're sort of aware of that, but she goes into their interior lives and
enough to show.
Cool. So
sounds good.
But then the other thing that I think you are going to love about this is that this is a book for people who love Victorian fiction.
Yeah.
It's sort of, what's the word? Referential.
Yeah.
In a very, like, not in a plodding way. It's
in an affectionate way, would you say? Like showing the affection towards that literature.
Yes.
Yeah. It rewards you for being a reader of that literature.
Yes. Yes. So if you've read lots of Victorian novels, or some Victorian novels at least, you get, there's an added frisson of enjoyment reading this book.
Because you'll see, that harkens back to...
I'll give you an example. Okay. So the two main characters in this, Mrs. Lennox, the governess, and Mrs. Evesham, who's the
mother
that who's employing her, are talking about, or not talking about, because it's really difficult, their two marriages.
Okay.
Because they're both widowed, and you know, and they are talking about it, but they can't be explicit with each other.
Yeah.
And you, the reader, then know that you see that basically, then she got to her feet, placing the tenant of Wildfell Hall on the sideboard. I had better retire to bed. She raised her candle, smiled that unreadable smile of hers, then turned and left the room. Now, what do you immediately know
about the tenant of Wildfell Hall? It's about a woman who, she's pretending to be a widow.
And spoilers. And she's in a, it's not a spoiler in that you find yourself thinking, oh,
hang on, can I remember what position is she actually in?
Yeah, and is that a red herring, or is
that an alarm to me to know? Yeah.
And equally, the tenant of Wildfell Hall is about someone who's in an abusive relationship.
Yeah, it's not a happy marriage.
So you know that both their marriages then were probably unhappy. Well, you kind of already know that about one of them.
It's an extra hint.
It lets you know, and it's almost like a coded message between the two of them. So on all those levels that works, and it only works if you know the Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which doesn't mean to say that you couldn't enjoy this book if you hadn't read those books, but it gives a extra layer. And Jane Eyre is a real obvious influence, Tenant of Wildfell Hall, but also it's got the kind of that gothic thing of
Victorian Gothic literature.
Yes, which I know you've probably read more of than I have, and
I don't know, probably similar amounts. So
sort of or the sort of Wilkie Collins,
Yes, I love a bit of Wilkie Collins. Yes,
so and we have to thank Nick, Katie's husband, because Katie said that Nick said, if you're writing a book that's like connected, partly inspired or by Jane Eyre, that you have to burn the house down.
I thought you weren't supposed to be giving me any spoilers.
It doesn't spoil the story. That doesn't tell you about anything.
There is like a flame.
You can
on
see
the cover,
the flame on the cover. I think that's not a spoiler.
You should say,
and you
don't know. A gorgeous cover, and like the end pages as well. Really nice.
I think the UK edition is so much prettier than the American one. That's much more pedestrian. This is gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm just very happy to have it.
So there we go. That's why I think you are gonna love this when you read it.
Yes, and I will read it on my journey.
And I will enthusiastically recommend it to everyone out there, especially if you enjoy historical fiction, especially if you enjoy Victorian literature and things with a little bit of the sort of
the Gothic.
The Gothic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe in return we could say, does anyone have any other recommendations for modern historical fiction that has good references to the literature of the time in which it was based?
Yes. It's not like pretending to be a Victorian novel.
Yeah.
But it captures well that atmosphere that I enjoy.
Lovely.
There we go. So thank you, Katie. No, thank you too. Bye.
Bye.